Welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are talking about the behind the scenes of a negotiation, including what your boss is thinking when you negotiate. Now, this is part 6 of an 8-video series. If you want to watch the entire series, then head to my channel and click on the Art of Negotiation playlist.
All right, so you've gone through an interview, your references have been called, and now the phone rings. You know it's somebody calling with a job offer. So again, it's going to be the hiring manager or the HR consultant or the third-party recruiter. Really doesn't matter who's calling. What matters is that before you pick up the phone, you remind yourself of 2 things. Number 1, their job is to get you to say yes as quickly as possible and for the lowest possible price. And number 2, you hold all the power. That's right. They want you. You are their top candidate. They would not be negotiating with their top 3 candidates. They're negotiating only with the person that they want to put in the position. That's you. You have the power to say, I don't like this offer. You have the power to say yes to an offer. You have the power to extend the negotiation and continue looking for a deal until you find a mutually beneficial agreement. So before you pick up the phone, always remember that. Write it down, put it on a sticky note. Remind yourself, you hold the power. Because they're going to do everything in their power to make you feel like you don't hold the power. And they do that because you hold the power. Because they are vulnerable and at the will of you, really, and the timeline that you set. So here's how it usually happens. You answer the phone and let's say it's the hiring manager. They call and they let you know that you're the top candidate and that we'd like to make an offer to you, and this is what it is. Hide your disappointment. Even if you're not disappointed, be neutral. The offer, I guarantee you, is lower than what you deserve, and that's by design. That's absolutely by design. So the offer is the lowest offer that they think you might say yes to, and they've calculated the fact that as a woman, you're probably not going to negotiate because 60% of women don't. And if they can save a little bit of money in their salary budget, they can deploy it elsewhere. Maybe they can add it and get another person, who knows, right? So they're going to make you an offer that's worth less than you are worth. I guarantee you that. And if you think that the offer is actually fair and great, then we need to have a conversation about how much you're worth, because it will be lower than your value. So they'll make this offer knowing that as a woman, you're probably not going to negotiate, hoping that you say yes. And they might put pressure on you to say, we need an offer, or we need an answer, by tomorrow at noon or by the end of day Friday. They might talk about some specific project that starts in a time frame and that we need to have the person on board as quickly as possible. And they may use neutral language to talk about the person and not even you. They're going to try to make you feel like we need to get through this negotiation as quickly as possible, because if you say no, then we want to make sure we move on to the next person as quickly as possible. Or they might give you the impression that there are actually 2 people that they're negotiating with at the same time. Much like dating 2 people at the same time, that is way too complicated. And there are almost no organizations that would engage in that practice, because it gets really messy once an offer is on the table. And there are, in some areas, legal implications to that. So they're going to put the offer on the table. They're going to put pressure on you to form a response, even right away. Well, can you say yes now? Again, their motivation is to get you to say yes as quickly as possible at the lowest possible price. At that first conversation, your job is to simply take the offer and thank them for the offer and let them know you will get back to them after you've had a chance to consider the offer. This is really important. Do not make any kind of a snap judgment. Even if you are in a position where you are desperate to get out of your existing job, you need to at least convey the confidence that you need to think about this offer. That confidence is absolutely essential as you move your way through a negotiation. So even if you're ready to counteroffer, even if you've done all the homework and maybe their hiring information is public and you've been able to determine what it is that your counteroffer would be, maybe you've done that work already, you still want to extend the timeline. You want to slow down the game and remove the pressure to say yes. So the words that you use are simple. Thank you so much. I'm really excited about this opportunity. I need some time to consider it. Let me give you a call tomorrow at noon or by end of day Wednesday, or whatever it is, whatever is a reasonable time frame within that circumstance. That's the only thing you need to do. because otherwise you say yes or you say no, and the negotiation's done, and I guarantee you, you've walked away with less than your value. So when you hang up the phone after saying thank you very much, I'll consider it and give you a call back. You're not saying yes or no. What usually happens is a little huddle behind the scenes where, you know, if the HR consultant is the person who called you, then they call the manager and say, oh, I talked to her and she's going to think about it. And it actually is an important step because it puts them on notice that you're not about to say yes without thinking about it. So it puts them on notice that you're probably going to come back with some items to negotiate on. And that's good. That's basically change management. If you've ever studied change management, this idea of making people aware of your intentions early on can really help to smooth this process as you move through. So as you continue to move through this process, you want to make sure that you are putting on the table those things that are the most important to you. We'll talk about strategy and exactly how to weight things and present them in week 3. But it's important that when you do call that consultant or person back, you're calling back with your anchor, with your big offer of this is what I'm looking for. And you're justifying it by not talking about their offer and how it missed the mark, but by talking about why this offer is appropriate for you and the skills and the talents and the expectations that you come with. And so the next day or a couple of days later, you will call them back and you will say, thank you for the offer. I've given it some consideration and I'd like to counteroffer with these particular terms. So I'm looking for a salary at about this pace, at about this level. I'm also looking for, you know, the benefits to be this and this and this. It's important, we'll talk about anchoring throughout this course, but it's important for you to not get dragged down by the anchor of the first offer. There's this psychological experience that we have where we tend to always think about what the first offer is. It's called an anchor in negotiation theory because that first offer always anchors our mind to a starting point. And when that starting point is really low, we're finding ourselves defending against that starting point rather than talking about the validity of our own counteroffer. So the power of negotiation and your power comes in actually not completely ignoring their offer, but diverting their attention away from their anchor and really treating it as though it's irrelevant. And maybe there are elements in it that are fine, but really redefining what the new anchor is. In a salary negotiation, you don't have the opportunity to do that normally, right? You can't put forward the first statement to say, this is the salary and these are the benefits I expect and this is what I'm looking for in terms of all of the details. It's typically an offer made by an employer. So your work is to counteroffer in a way that breaks that psychological chain to their first anchor, all right? So you're going to present your offer, and we'll talk about exactly how you do that and the way that you phrase it in week 3. And typically, they're going to need to consider it. And they might push back in that conversation and give you really important information that tells you where there's flexibility and where there isn't flexibility. So as an empathetic woman, you have this superpower, this empathy. Your ears are always turned on and you're always thinking about how what you can do is going to align to what they need. And so throughout these conversations, take notes. You're going to listen and you're going to learn things about the organization that can help you in a few different stages of that negotiation. So they might tell you that, oh, you know what, that salary is not actually possible. It's beyond the range, or that salary, what you're asking for is more than what your supervisor makes. So it's just not something we would contemplate. That's great information. That doesn't mean it's a no for you. That means that you need to figure out where you can find other trades that can make up for that desired salary. So maybe it's support for education, maybe it's paid childcare, maybe it's additional benefits. There are lots of ways that you can increase the value of your package without it always being in the salary. But the information that you gather when they tell you that, oh no, we can't do that, is really important, because it makes no sense to continue hammering home on that one item when you could also explore others. So that second conversation is really about presenting a new anchor and saying, this is what I'm worth. And if you've been offered the job, you've done a great job of selling them on the value that you bring to the workplace in the interview process. So they're sold on you being the best candidate. You're presenting your offer, and they're not going to be able to say yes in that moment. There will be items that they for sure can't say yes to, or they need to consider it. And so your response is going to be one of flexibility and one that leaves the door open to negotiation. So you're not going to say to come over, I have to have this package. You're going to say that, the package that you're looking for would include the following elements, right? And that the most important items to you include this and this and this. And here's what feels right for me. They will then have to take that back. They will have to take that and do evaluation of it and assess whether there are items on that list that are unacceptable to you or to them, whether there are items that they haven't actually contemplated or haven't had the opportunity to negotiate in the past. And so they're probably going to have to do a little bit of work. HR and the hiring manager, and if it's the third party consultant again, they may not be able to say yes right in that moment. And that's okay. So your response is, I'd really like you to take this forward and let me know what you can do. Again, not absolutes, not speaking in absolutes that I can't do this or I'll never be able to, or it has to be this way. But take this forward and let me know what you're able to do for me. And that's where you end that conversation. Because when they call you back the next time, we're no longer talking now about their anchored offer, their original offer. We're talking about their response to your offer. So you've successfully moved them to where you need to. So they're coming back and saying, okay, well, you wanted a salary of this, and the most that we can give you is this. And you were looking for these particular benefits, and these are the things that we can do. So generally what you're going to find is that they're going to, if you've put forward a number of different benefits or work terms that you're looking for, they're going to be able to say yes to many of those, right? Some of them don't cost anything in terms of things like educational budgets. Those come out of a different part of the budget than the salary budget. So there are lots of things that they'll be able to come back and say yes to. And they'll also probably come back and say, we were able to do, go here and here and here and get you yeses on those, but we're not able to do the salary, and we were thinking this at the insurance level or this at the, this particular educational level. Here's the best that we can do. And at that stage, again, you want to explore and ideally find out why. So this is a key to integrative negotiation. The more that you have conversations with them, the more you understand the rationale for why they can't. In some cases, it's a policy. In some cases, the supervisor's making less money than what you're asking for. In some cases, it's just a philosophy of the organization that they don't support education. Understanding the why can help you to renegotiate as you move through the process, but it can also help you to determine if in fact the culture of the organization is one where you want to uproot your life for and move to. So continue with that pattern of securing the items that matter most to you. And again, in 2 weeks, we're going to go through a very specific process of defining what are those most important things. And very importantly, what's your walk away point? If you don't get, whether it's a package at this level or certain elements of the package that you absolutely need to feel rewarded and compensated appropriately for what you bring, then you're going to need to be comfortable walking away from the offer at that point. So walking into the negotiation and giving yourself the space and time to negotiate back and forth gives you that flexibility to really assess in between each of the meetings, in between each of the offers and counteroffers, whether the changes to that negotiated agreement are in line with what you are hoping for, and at least more than what your walkaway point is, or whether in fact they're just nowhere near what you would need to be able to consider stepping away from what you're doing right now, and to take on these responsibilities in this role. So typically there will be a few back and forths. It's not just, an offer comes in and you sign it and you say yes. That's what happens if you don't negotiate. Typically, you will counteroffer, they will come back, they'll be able to address a few of the items. They'll want to negotiate on a few. They'll say, well, maybe if you started earlier, we might be able to increase the stock option, or there might be timelines at play. So you can expect the negotiation to go back and forth. So you'll get the offer, you'll counteroffer, they'll come back with a revised offer, and you might like that revised offer. You might be comfortable with it, or you might want to negotiate on a few more items. It could go back and forth 8, 9, 10 times if you really want to negotiate. If you really get the feeling that there's an opportunity to push a little bit, absolutely. And then typically you would, once you've come to an agreement and you're comfortable with the offer, you want to make sure that offer is in writing and that all of the detailed benefits that you've negotiated are written down, and they're part of the letter of offer that you sign. So absolutely critical at this stage is not leaving it up to a conversation where maybe you were negotiating with your future supervisor, and that person said, oh yeah, of course, all of our employees get the opportunity to work remote, and you can work whatever hours you'd like. It's so important to not take that as a verbal offer, and actually, if that's an important element of the transaction to you, that you get that documented in the letter of offer. And if they haven't documented it in that letter, then you feel free to just reply to the email and indicate that as part of our conversation we had talked about this. I'd like it documented in that letter of offer, just for future record. And that's it. You sign the offer, you give your 2 weeks notice at your other employer, or whatever notice you're giving, and you move forward. It is not generally a high intense and fear-based experience once you're in it. It's really that taking the leap of deciding to negotiate. And being brave to put forward your anchor offer. Those are the hardest parts. And then once you start getting into the back and forth and the negotiation of what the specific terms are, as you reach agreement on certain things, it becomes easier to get to agreement on the rest of the items on your list. And you lose that fear, and that confidence builds over time. So that's really it in a nutshell. When you're experiencing a new job offer, that's what a good negotiation is going to feel like. And like I said, we're going to talk about fear and how that prevents us, and how that really drives us to make knee-jerk decisions, and often knee-jerk decisions that lead to us making less money and taking less benefits for our work. And we're going to talk about specific strategies, words to use, ways to slow down that negotiation, and specifically, how do you assess what your anchor should be and what your walk-away point is. So all of that stuff will come up in future weeks of this course. But for right now, I need you to really understand that this is a process, and it happens the same way every single time. It may feel new to you because it's something you don't do very often, but it's a consistent process for sure recruiters or hiring managers and HR consultants who do this work all the time. This is their bread and butter, and so they expect you to negotiate, but they sure hope that you won't, because if you walk away with that price that is the lowest price that they think you might say yes to, you're doing them a big favor, but you're not doing yourself any favors, because you're keeping money on the table, you're leaving money on the table that could be in your pocket, and in fact, you're demonstrating that you're willing to say yes quickly, and you're demonstrating that you are not willing to push for things that are very important to you. So I think that's a really nice overview of what you can expect when you're negotiating a new job offer. Next up, we're going to talk about how to negotiate within your existing role, and that's a little bit of a different process.
Thanks for watching. If you want more videos on negotiation like this, then make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, while you're here, leave me a comment. Tell me if this was helpful or how you plan on implementing what you learned. And if you want to support my work while you level up your negotiation skills, then head to the link below where you can purchase my negotiation guide. In the meantime, I want to thank you for watching. I will see you here next time.